Hi, it's Steve Cochran, and welcome again to Live from my office. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support and how much you take the effort to spread the word to friends. You know, many people thought maybe I was taken as a political prisoner by the Trump people after I left radio. Many people thought that possibly I had gone into the witness protection program because I was some sort of secret CIA operative all those years. Wait, I'm being told no one thought that? Okay, let's go with the Trump thing. But no, that's not true either. I'm here doing the podcast. But what do we know? We know a lot of folks aren't comfortable with podcasts and podcasting. It's still fairly new. There are millions out there, but we hope if you have to listen to one, if you choose to listen to one, if you want to listen to one, you listen to this one. Because it's always entertaining, or at least it makes an effort to be entertaining. Right? Right. I don't know why I'm talking to myself. I'm the only one in my office. But here's the deal. Today, something a little bit different on Live from my office. Today, David Wallach joins me. And David Wallach is a TV producer friend of mine. And we're going to talk about reality TV. Now, if you hate reality TV, don't go anywhere because he is very angry about reality TV. And he used to produce it. So we've got that to talk about. And look, as always, this is all sponsored by David Hochberg, Team Hochberg. All they want to do is save you some money and do the right thing and help you out. But you got to make the call, 855-56-DAVID, or check out 56david.com. And thank you, David. Mr. Hochberg will be appearing on this podcast with an alderman in an effort to raise money for bulletproof vests for cops. I think most of you know this. Cops have to pay for their own bulletproof vests. I've never been able to wrap my head around that, but it's true. And David Hochberg is a very giving guy, always has been, and he has put together or he's in the process of putting together a live broadcast / fundraiser. So he'll be on to plug that here in a couple of weeks. He's got a bunch of cool stuff he's getting together to raise money as well. As always, we ask you to subscribe, to download, as I mentioned, to rate, review. And if you haven't been able to figure out how to do this podcast thing, hand your phone to the nearest 7-year-old, unless it's not one you know, and that could get a little creepy, and have them show you. Or at least tell them, hey, subscribe me to Steve Cochran's Live from my office so I don't have to worry about it. And because I don't want you losing sleep over this thing. And you will, in fact, get every single episode. Now, I mentioned David Wallach, today's guest, TV producer, as I mentioned. He's got a new project we'll be talking about, but the majority of the conversation will be about the nonsense on reality TV and something very offensive to he and I think maybe you too. It's a story that didn't get covered really at all last week, other than people expressing their outrage on social media. So we'll get to that. But in regards to this new project with David Wallach, it's on Tubi. And it is a show featuring true crime. And that is a very hot genre, as I'm sure you know. As a matter of fact, it's the number one genre in podcasting. I'm going to play the promo for the show. I will warn you up front, this is a very disturbing story of a real-life dad who killed his wife, his children, and his unborn child. So you've been suitably warned. Again, I should say Mr. Wallach and I will talk about that shortly. But first, here's the promo.
I just want them back. I just want them to come back.
We have 2 kids. We live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
They just seemed like they were the perfect, happy American family.
So pink means...
That's just the test. She recorded everything, posted everything. You really felt like you were her friend. My husband's a genius.
There was something with how he presented himself to the world that gave everybody this really intense gut reaction that something is not right with this guy.
Last time I talked to her was this morning. She said she was going to take the kids to a friend's house, and she asked where she was going to be.
She had just vanished into thin air.
Shanann, if you're hearing this or you're out there, please let somebody know you're okay.
Shanann Watts and her 2 girls, 3 and 4 years old, are all missing. Watts is 15 weeks pregnant.
I want them back home, like...
But you know they're not coming back home.
Everything was closing in on him.
I did not hurt these girls.
Parents who truly believe that something has happened to their children are grieving.
He knew that he was going to kill his wife.
He's a true sociopath.
Daddies don't kill their babies, and how do you wrap your mind about that?
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong.
It's just a horrible, horrible story. And why is it being told? Well, it's important to be told. And unlike what goes on the networks now, this is not some cookie cutter version. They go deep on this. And if you choose to watch it, I hope you will, you're going to have two reactions, I think. One, happy it's not you and that you never have to experience anything like this. But secondarily, sociopaths live amongst us. And hopefully you can get some inspiration for somebody else if you're living in an abusive relationship to get out, because it's very hard to tell how bad things could get. So that's my friend David Wallach. He will join us in just a second. By the way, in the midst of the interview, I mentioned he has produced reality TV. Here's what we'll do. Our friends at Apt pleasing people since, let's say the 17th century. I have Apt gift cards to give away. We did this last week, got some great responses. And just like last week, the first 3 people that email me with the correct answer to the question I'm about to pose will, in fact, win an Apt gift card. You just need to email me at thecochranshow@gmail.com. Give me the correct answer and your mailing address, and I will send you the Apt gift card. Again, thank you, Apt Electronics, for that. Great people. My friend Steve Shapiro, the Apt brothers, just iconic business. And thank you for the gift cards. So we will give those away. Here is the question you'll have to answer, and you'll need to listen to Wallach's interview to have this answer. The question is this. David Wallach did, in fact, produce reality TV. What is the reality TV show that he produced that he mentions most often in our interview today? What reality TV show did David Wallach produce that he mentions most often in our interview today? First 3 correct answers at thecochranshow@gmail.com will get an Apt gift card. And again, don't forget to include your mailing address. By the way, David Wallach, as I mentioned, friend of mine for a long time, very good friend and a TV producer. And we tried a couple of television things that I think would have been good, but for a number of reasons didn't happen. And I've pitched him recently with other ideas, and it must be a technical issue with my phone because he's not texting me back on these. You can tell me what you think. One of them is a reboot of Welcome Back, Kotter. It's called Welcome Back, Horseshack. And when I didn't hear from him, I did a little research. Turns out Ron Palillo, the great Shakespearean actor who played Horseshack, sadly died at a very young age. So I'm resubmitting the pitch. It's Welcome Back, Boom Boom for Freddie Boom Boom Washington. You wish me well with that. Another one is the documentary on a deep dive investigation into goat yoga. For those of you who want to aware, goat yoga is a real thing. It's baby goats who mingle amongst people doing yoga, and they can climb on you during yoga poses and things of that nature. My question, I think you're probably with me with this, what about other farm animals? What about cows? What about horses? Well, that's the pitch, and that's the kind of investigation we're willing to do in Goat Yoga, the deep dive, the dark side of yoga. So, that's just a couple of possibilities. And I'll tell you, you may appreciate this other one as well. If you're old enough to remember the dating game or all the dating game ripoffs that have come since then, this has never been done. And I always thought it should be. I call it the breakup game. And the breakup game works this way. A creepy guy is on the show hitting on and trying to pick up one of 3 beautiful contestants who are behind screens that he can't see. As the game goes along, at some point, his wife or girlfriend, or possibly both, are brought into the studio and they find out what he's doing and they slap him around and have to be pulled off him. That's the breakup game. And that's another pitch I've sent. It's hard to believe he's not responding to these. That's all I'm saying. Don't you? Thank you again for listening, and thank you for supporting Live from my office. We will take a break for David Hochberg, and then we will come back, and you'll hear my conversation with Mr. Wallach, and seriously, an outrageous thing that happened on The Bachelor last week that needs to be addressed after this. If you're purchasing a new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan, a reverse mortgage, do what I did. Call Team Hochberg when I needed help with the money in my home. Team Hochberg is your trusted local lender. Doug and Christine married 3 kids, living paycheck to paycheck, and entered forbearance during the pandemic, which deferred their mortgage payments for 16 months. They resumed those payments last year, but the increased cost of gas and food ballooned their credit card debt to over $30,000. Never a good idea, but so many of you know the drill. You have to pay that we have to pay, and sometimes you got to pay more later. Well, Team Hochberg can help. They helped Doug and Christine secure a cash-out refinance to pay off their debt, which allowed their family to hit a much-needed financial reset button. So let's review. Before calling, Doug and Christine were drowning financially and living off their credit cards. After they called, they were debt-free and able to support their family. Team Hochberg has helped me and thousands of podcast listeners to this show refinance after things like forbearance and eliminate debt with a cash-out refinance. You don't understand what those words mean? You're not alone. The good news is Team Hochberg does. They help Doug and Rachel, and they can help you, but you got to take the first step and call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. And don't forget to tune in to Home Sweet Home Chicago. It's hosted by David Hochberg, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. on AM 720 WGN. Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061. Now I'm live from my office, and this is one of the great thrills for me. You know, all those years on the radio, so many times I had to sit in some idiot manager's office going, I can't help but notice you put your friends on a lot. Yeah, because they're talented and entertaining. And one of those is this guy, a very good friend of mine for many, many years, David Wallach, big shot television producer forever. It's hard to give David an appropriate introduction because he's into a lot of things, probably laundering money, who knows? But he's here with us now. David, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever they're listening.
Hey, buddy. Well, what a great intro. First of all, I think we can still say happy, right?
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny you say that. I was talking to Dr. Most the other day, our medical genius, and Dr. Most said that he says it till November. He takes November off and he starts all over again. So I end it like January 31st to me is the cutoff, even if I haven't seen you. You know, if I haven't seen you for months and I see you in June and I say Happy New Year, it better be a bit.
Yeah, I'm good with that. If the doctor says it, we have to be able to do it.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that you were a reality TV pioneer?
I think that's fair. I was producing reality shows back in 2000, and I was fortunate enough to learn reality TV at the feet of the masters, Buna Murray, who created The Real World and so many other shows. So I sometimes I'm not proud of it, but yeah, I've been working and produced lots of reality TV.
But reality TV, to me, has developed into an ever-present, not just a distraction, but there's parts of it that are just evil, just wrong. And at the same time, it waters down the good stuff that's out there. As a matter of fact, you have something that's coming up and is available, as a matter of fact, as we speak, available now on Tubi. We'll talk about that in a little bit, which sure. I think is good because it sheds light on the hottest thing in podcasting, which is true crime podcasts, and tells a story, this horrible story. You thought Scott Peterson was bad? You got to hear about Chris Watts. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But you and I want to talk today about The Bachelor because you alerted me to something that, frankly, I missed because it's going to shock you. I don't watch The Bachelor.
And you're the one person they keep trying to get.
Yeah, they really do. They're going, hey, this 60-year-old big mouth, can we get that dude? Because we're not going to survive without him. So it's all fantasy. What is the attraction to the show before we get into the problem?
I used to give speeches a lot to colleges about reality TV when I was working with the Real World cast. And I would start off by saying a few things. I said, if you never end up on a reality show, you should thank your parents because that means they've raised you right.
Well said.
And the other thing is that reality TV, if reality TV was a muscle in your body, it would be the strongest muscle in your body. People love the lowest common denominator. They live for the lowest common denominator. And that's reality TV. And The Bachelor, which started out, again, back in the day, I used to be a fan of this show. I used to watch it. I actually still have a bottle of Firestone wine for Bachelor fans who remember Andrew Firestone. I'm friends with Jen Ship on Facebook, who's a Chicago girl. And then it started, having to compete with streaming and all the other things that are going out there. And the dive that this show has taken has gone from bad to, as the last episode, absolutely horrible, absolutely unacceptable from what they're airing on the air, and it's horrible.
You've been in those rooms, you've led those rooms.
I've led those rooms.
So when conversations come up, is it network pressure, or is it in-show pressure from a showrunner like yourself, or showrunners are the boss of the show, to put it in generic terms, to get eyeballs? Is it self-pressure, or is it just a network saying, hey, look, you got to turn this around now?
It's a formula. I mean, even before you start airing the show, when you're casting a show like The Bachelor, or I used to produce Wife Swap on ABC as well, oddly enough. And with Wife Swap...
This could affect our friendship, by the way. I didn't know you were tied to a Wife Swap.
Yeah, the Llama Mama and the Big City Mama was one of my favorites.
But who makes the call? Is it the network guy that says, hey, Bachelor showrunner, fix your show or you're over?
Well, no, again, it goes with the casting. So when we were casting White Swap, we had to pitch the network, and we were looking for what we would call a match. But the match was the biggest mismatch. What would cause the most conflict? What would cause the most drama? What can we pitch to the network that was so irresistible they would say yes? So in the case of the Llama Mama, it was literally a vegan mom who lived in Kentucky and raised llamas, and the llamas were allowed in and out of the house, and they were super religious. And then this Puerto Rican mom from New York.
Well, see, this is interesting to me. I don't mean to interrupt, but that's what I do.
Yeah.
But this is interesting to me because what you're describing to me makes the casting of The Bachelor harder, because finding a very pretty girl who's a little bit nuts is frankly not that hard. And by the way, the same goes for men, good-looking men who are nuts. Not that hard. So how do you cast, different types outside of race, in heritage and all that? How do you cast different types in that regard?
Well, again, you're looking for people who are way left or way right. My wife was a professor at the University of Chicago in the Graduate School of Business. And the first year they were casting The Apprentice, she made it to the finals of the casting.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, because she taught business and has a great business mind. But she also taught a program called LEAD, which is Leadership and Effective Development. And it helps leaders understand conflict and how to understand each other. And that's what the casting director said to her: is you're too normal. Your job is to avoid conflict. Your job is to help people stop conflict and using the social skills that you need in the business world. And that's not what we're looking for. So again, you're looking for way left or way right, people who are so inflammatory. You know that they're coming in to cause trouble, or people who are so adverse to trouble. And you know that when they get in the room with the other folks, there's going to be an issue. And unfortunately, that's what happened on this show, but it took a horrible, disgusting turn where one of the cast members started making fun of another one because she has ADHD and and sensory processing disorders, and went after her in a way that was disgusting. It was inappropriate and, quite frankly, shameful. And that's why we're here. And beyond that, these shows, I know you've got lots of follow-ups, but these shows don't air live. It was a decision by the producing team. It was a decision by the network. It was a decision by the executive producers to take this storyline and air it because it makes for, quote unquote, good TV.
Well, and you and I both have personal sensitivities to this outside of the normal humanity in my world and yours, where you don't make fun of people who are dealing with any sort of mental illness. And that could be something as simple as a learning disability all the way to severe bipolar disorder and everything in between. ADHD on the surface, if you've never dealt with it, you go, oh, big deal. So the kid can't focus. It's a very big deal, and it affects your life. And what this woman on The Bachelor admitted to having in confidence to the other one, yeah, I know there were cameras and microphones there,
right?
But she thought she was saying in confidence to this woman was a personal thing that was not to be shared. We believe that, right?
Well, here's the thing, there's a few things. My youngest son is autistic, and my oldest son has ADHD, and I think this is an amazing young lady. I think her parents need a pat on the back. And the fact that they've raised a young lady to advocate for herself, to let people know this is what's going on with her, right? And then for her to be strong enough and believe in herself enough to go on a reality show, which when you're on any reality show, even if it's a cooking show, the amount of pressure and the amount of stress is overwhelming unless you're standing on the other side of those cameras and you're looking at the three cameras that are pointing at you and the three sound people and then the producers behind them, and I'm sorry, my phone. There's producers behind them, and then there's runners running back and forth. It's overwhelming for the most typically minded person. And this young lady had the strength and the courage to go on this show and share that. That's fantastic, and that should be celebrated, and she should be put up on a pedestal for everyone to understand how brave she is. Now, on the flip side, what she did, the Shanae, the character, the woman Shanae, got upset with her on The Bachelor because they were by the pool and she wasn't making eye contact with her when she was talking.
Cuckoo.
And Shanae, cuckoo, right? And Shanae, who calls herself Shanae, got upset and went to Clayton, the Bachelor, and said she was being mean to me. And Clayton took Elizabeth, who's the young lady who we were talking about, and asked her. And she said, no, I didn't know. I wasn't being mean. And then she went to Shanae and explained it in a way that, God, I hope my sons someday can advocate for themselves in such a clear and concise way, because it was fantastic. And instead of accepting it, Shanae, who has made it very clear she's not on the show to make friends. She might be on the show to increase her OnlyFans someday, but she is definitely not on the show to make friends. Made fun of her and ridiculed her, not once, but twice and several times throughout the show. And the producers looked at this as, hey, here's an opportunity to grow ratings. And here's an opportunity, again, to show conflict. And it's disgusting. It's shameful. They're making fun of people with disabilities.
Okay, now here's my question, though. And I know a good portion of America probably wasn't affected by that the way we are. But I think more of America, and I dare say the majority of America, would be on the side of, no, of course you don't make fun of people who are admitting they have an issue they have to deal with. But for those who did believe it, I don't know that they're, or thought it was okay, I don't know that they're reachable. But those producers, as you said, they have to make a conscious decision. We're looking for the conflict. Here's the conflict. Does anybody feel guilty at that in that regard? I mean, take me to Hollywood, my friend. Does anybody at that point go, yeah, should we really do this?
You know, it's crazy how this ended up on the air. It's beyond me, because you go through so many levels of scrutiny before a TV show ends up on the air. The show that I made that airs now, that we'll talk about later, goes through myself, first of all, and then my supervising producers and executive producers and writers, and then network executives, and then lawyers, to make sure that whatever you say or do isn't A, breaking the law, and B, offensive, right? Because you have to balance that line. This went through so many levels of scrutiny, and each and every time they shirked it and let it go. And beyond that, when you're filming a reality show, you're filming 20 hours a day, and you usually have 3 cameras going at the same time. So the amount of content that you're gathering is massive, and they had to choose this actively, not only look for it, choose it, and then piece it together. It didn't just happen at one time. It happened several times over a period of time, and they sought those moments out and edited together to make it look like, you know, to add it to their storyline when they had plenty of other options.
Now, here's the thing that I don't understand, because they had a host on The Bachelor and Bachelorette for years. He was a very good guy and the perfect host for that show, not just because he was the one everybody remembers. He just was. And he got cancel cultured off the show by the same network.
That's a great point. And it may not be very politically correct, but Chris Harris, who was the host, was canceled because he was involved in a podcast that had a politically incorrect theme, right? And unwilling to him, but he was involved.
Right.
But what ABC did, and again, what ABC did when they aired this, ADHD crosses all socioeconomical, all races, all sexual orientations. People, black, white, whatever race they are, have ADHD. If you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're trans, if you're non-binary, there's people that have ADHD. And ABC made fun of all of them at the same time. Chris Harris, in a poor moment, in a poor choice, right, was involved in a fairly racist podcast. ABC attacked every single person across every single race and every single culture.
Right.
With ADHD.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know Chris Harris, and I certainly don't have a horse in that race.
No.
But what he said could be deemed racist. He is not in any way, shape, or form, including all of his social media past and every other way we track people now. He's not a racist. He said a dumb thing on a podcast, and that cost him his job. So how does ABC have it both ways? Because you've been in those meetings. You get called on the carpet. We got to do this. We got to do that. Look what you put us into. I can't believe you did this. How does ABC say, okay, Chris Harris, yeah, he had to go. But in this case, they got to be getting some heat, even though the story has faded away, sadly. They got to be getting some heat over this episode, don't they?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight when it airs. They haven't made any statement as of yet, and we're recording this on Friday before the show airs. What they did wasn't okay. And, you know, Twitter is blowing up about it. You know, if you look on social media, there's a lot there, but they haven't released any type of statement. And ratings are good. And when ratings are good, networks can overlook a lot. And what will have to happen is that it has to go to the sponsors. And if the sponsors start to complain, then there'll be a problem. But they need to be held accountable because they went after everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps getting missed, is what they did isn't okay.
Well, and also it's a huge missed opportunity, right? Because the way we get better as a country is to say what you and I have always said, and that is we need to start treating mental illnesses of all kinds with the same sort of seriousness, fundraising, interest, and dedication that we do heart disease and cancer and everything else in this country, which we take seriously immediately. There is no snap out of it. There is no walk it off. And it is debilitating in your life. And for ABC to put this crap on the air and then just, hide and hope that the clouds, just blow over, it's a shame.
It is a shame. And hopefully they'll do something or say something on this episode. But the show needs to change, or it needs to go away because it has become desperate, kind of like some of the people on the show, for attention. And doing this only lowers the bar, and heaven forbid what comes next. That's the point, right? I've always made the joke that eventually we're just going to have public executions on the air. Because why not? We keep lowering the bar. God forbid, heaven forbid. But we keep lowering the bar. We keep lowering the bar, and now here we are. We're making fun of people with disabilities and saying it's okay.
Yeah, and it's not okay. Not okay on any level. If people are fired up enough they didn't know about this, and they want to complain to ABC, does it make any difference?
I think it does. I think it makes more of a difference if you get on social and you can pile on. But watch the show. Who are the sponsors? There's commercials that air between the show. Send a note to them on social. Hit them up on social. How could you possibly sponsor this show? How could you be a party to such horrible behavior? How can you allow this to be your company to be aligned with a company that makes fun of people with disabilities?
And that's the stuff that can truly have impact.
Yeah. I mean, again, I work a lot in advertising with brands, and that's a brand disaster. You know, I don't know who, I couldn't tell you a commercial with ABC because I watch it, like everyone else, pre-recorded. But if you start looking at the advertisers and you go after them on social and you send them IMs, and every brand has a way to send them an IM or a chat and let them know how disgusted you are by this, because there's lots of people in this country who are, especially now, with COVID and everything, mental illness is on the rise, and they're sponsoring a show that makes light of mental illness. That's how you make a change.
Well, and that's where I come back to that missed opportunity, because the thing that ABC could be lauded for, if they had this woman removed and they stood up and said, we don't accept this kind of attitude, this kind of thought because it's wrong. And you'll never see us, making fun of people with any form of mental illness. So that's the missed opportunity, I think.
Again, it's all the show's already been shot. So you would think if you were watching it as it was happening, you could go to Colt or Clayton, the Bachelor, and be like, hey man, you need to get rid of her. You need to make some strong statement about how you won't stand for this. The show's in the can. The Bachelor, he's already picked his girlfriend or whatever, and it's done. So
but what I'm saying is they knew when they shot that show and the decisions that you've described, they made those decisions. The episode that we'll see tonight could easily have something up front that says, this is what happened. We are as concerned as you are, and she's no longer on the show.
Right, or put something at the end if you're suffering from mental illness. Here's a number to call, or something. I mean,
which is a weak ass way out, but they could cover it that way.
It's a weak ass way out, but you know what? It's a positive way to continue the conversation.
Right.
There's so many people that suffer from mental illness. My youngest son, again, who I mentioned was autistic. I had a mom at school once tell me, "Well, he doesn't look autistic."
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, "Yeah, we comb his hair a different way," But
good Lord.
But again, it's when you mental illness, and again, I'm not making light of Down syndrome, so please don't throw the hate at me. When people have a disability, if you're missing an arm, if you're missing a leg, if you're Downs, you look different.
Yeah. Right.
If you have mental illness, if you're autistic, if you're suffering from ADHD or other things that can affect you mentally,
clinical
depression, like Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a gorgeous, beautiful girl. Right? And doing everything she can to survive in a typical world. Let's start that conversation. Just because you may look, quote unquote, typical doesn't mean there's not something happening. And people need to be more understanding. And we need to calm down. That we're all going through something. And if we take a deep breath and we actually just think that they're walking on eggshells too, it could be a better place.
Do these networks have directors, vice presidents of reality? So there's a specific division for that?
They've got development producers, and again, if you look at the end of the show, you'll see the executive producers' names and credits, and those are the people who kind of make those final decisions. By the way, I'll probably never be working for ABC again after this air, but that's fine. You can go on Facebook, you can go on Twitter, you can go on Instagram, you can communicate directly with the shows by leaving messages, and that's the quickest way to let them know. I mean, angry tweeting is fine. Everyone angry tweets about everything from your show to my show to how much they hated their peanut butter. Direct messages.
Yeah, because angry tweeting and Facebook posting, it may feel good in the moment, but you're not accomplishing anything other than that. I'm sorry to say. We talk about this in political terms with elections. It's fine to go on and say you don't like this candidate or that candidate. You need to be an activist. And the internet provides a way to learn how to do all of these things where your voice is heard, but it's amplified in a way it's not just by a simple post.
Yeah, there's a Bachelor page on Facebook, and you can leave a comment right there.
You know what I want to see The Bachelor do? I want to see The Bachelor do a show of regular-looking people. People that actually maybe aren't having many dates and aren't having a lot of success, but they're good, hardworking people. They have great hearts, and they'd be great partners in life, and they're filled with love, and they probably are just as ready to have sex as you are. Why not a Bachelor of regular? Well, I'll tell you why, because people won't watch it, will they? Anything else on The Bachelor you want to add before we move on to what you're doing now?
Well, I hope Clayton finds love. He really did.
I hope Clayton gets his GED.
Body fat. The poor kid has suffered enough. A pro football player looking like that. I hope he finds happiness.
Yeah, me too. I don't sleep well. I won't until he does. One of the things that happens with someone who's had your level of success, Mr. I don't have a place to put all my Emmys, is you get calls, you get pitched on certain things all the time. You've got a show that's now airing on Tubi, Tubi. It's an app that's on your smart TV, and if your TV is not smart, it's on your phone and your iPad or your computer, and it's easy to get, Tubi. And everybody loves the true crime stuff. The horror of Scott Peterson, you think, well, there's never going to be anybody that crazy again. turns out there was, and it was only 3 or 4 years ago. Tell me the story of Chris Watts.
Chris Watts, the name of the show is Suburban Nightmare, Chris Watts. It is, I've been producing true crime longer, actually. I've been producing reality TV, and this is at the top of the list of the darkest, most terrifying shows I've ever produced. And it brought up a phrase that I hope I never hear again. I hope it leaves our world completely. It's called family annihilation. There are men like Chris Watts who are family annihilators, where a husband, it's always a white male, has snapped and decides to wipe out his entire family. And Chris Watts lived in Colorado, beautiful wife, Shanann, and 2 beautiful little girls, and she was pregnant, and he comes home from work one day and they're missing. And a lot of people recall the story because it became a national story. There was a search for his wife and his kids, and come to find out Chris did it, right? The story isn't different. It's been done a lot. What makes this so different and what makes this so interesting to me is that we found experts to talk about, again, the mental health side of it, how this happened, why this happened, what is family annihilation. And then also, his wife was a social media influencer. So you hear her talking. You see her talking. You see her walking into her house. She recorded everything right before she's murdered. And then it picks up with the police where their body cameras, and they actually turn them on. So you're in the room. You are traveling along with them when there's a confession, when they're searching for the bodies, when the neighbors are having complete meltdowns trying to find this family. You're standing next to them. They're barely any recreations, and it makes it real to a level that I got to tell you, it's hard to watch, but I'm really proud of it.
And I think, again, you know me, I don't like doing any sort of show where you don't give people a plan on what to do with their upset or their anger. When you watch this, if you don't know the Chris Watts story, you're going to be very glad he's in jail for the rest of his life. But how do you identify a psychopath, a suburban psychopath who doesn't have a record, who, I know in the show, and we played the clip up front, the promo for the show, there's neighbors who said, yeah, his intensity was very strange. We knew there was something wrong. Neighbors normally, I'm not judging here, neighbors normally don't speak out. Family members with a grown child who may have married the person that you're not crazy about, they don't act most of the time. How do you deal with this if there's a psychopath and you don't know what he's done until he's done it?
Well, again, working in true crime as long as I've worked, the one sort of through story that resonates through all the experts I've ever interviewed is, what does a murderer look like? Anybody. They don't have a look. They don't have a feel. We interviewed an amazing, fascinating doctor who lives here in Chicago, and this is my pitch for you to have him on the show. His name is Dr. Obari Cartman. Okay. And he works deep in the South Side, and he deals with men and anger and typical male gender roles, and how and helps men get over those and their anger and their issues, and a lot in the African American community. He does fantastic work. And this is a doctor, and he said he wasn't a psychopath. He wasn't a sociopath. He was a monster. Family annihilators are monsters.
But aren't there signs and signals before the crime? I mean, forget about the fact that he was having an affair, and this was his, and Scott Peterson the same way. This was their way. They decided they would put their life together. They didn't have the balls and the courage to get a divorce and go through that process. They decided not just to murder their wives, but to murder their children.
Their children.
Which is just so outrageous. And I don't even want to get into it here, but when you see this Tubi show, fair warning, he murders his 2 very young daughters. And it takes time, and it's really hard. It's really hard to watch. It's hard to comprehend. So in that realm, I just don't know what to tell people to do other than to encourage the wife, because it's almost always a white guy husband, as you said.
Yeah.
The wife, that you don't have to live like this. You don't have to live in an emotionally abusive relationship or whatever. And, if you've ever said to your best friend, I'm afraid he might kill me someday, get out.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, again, part of the show looks at how, everybody's happy on social media. And his wife, she was a social media influencer. She was working for a nutrition company, and her job was to show how happy they were and how they were losing weight, how fit they were. And then behind the scenes, we have these text messages between them, and you saw that their marriage was falling apart. But, the message that we learned, and one of the lessons and takeaways that we learned, is it's okay to say that you're hurting. And it's okay to say that you need help, because their marriage is falling apart. He was cheating on her. She was trying to save it and never really asked for help out loud. And, on Facebook, we put up our pictures, and I'm promoting my new show, and you're promoting this podcast. And, we're saying how great things are, but sometimes life is, can I say shit? Life is shit, right? And things are falling apart, and you need help. And that's where social media can do good. And the people who you need, you can rely on, can help you. And it's okay to ask for help. And there's plenty of help out there.
Yeah. And
so
I would say if you have a best friend or a close friend or a neighbor, and there's some sort of abuse going on physically, certainly is easier to identify than emotional, but it's going on. You need to risk that friendship. You need to risk that relationship. And I know it's not easy, but you need to go to them and say, look, I want to help you. I want to help your children. I'll help you find resources. I'll drive you places. I'll do whatever you need, but I'm worried about you because of Chris, whoever Chris is in that scenario.
Right. There wasn't a lot of warning signs with Chris Watts. And when you're a family annihilator or a monster, as Dr. Cartman called them, her friends, you'll see, her friends didn't really know. They knew things are bad, but relationships are tough. You've been married for 480 years. I've been married for 1,000. It's tough. There's a difference between, oh God.
But in our case, the women are saints.
I know. My wife will end up on Snap someday for killing me. But yeah, this was, when you watch it, it's just, I wouldn't let my wife sort of be a part of the process as I was making it. And she watched we have a director's cut, it got sent to me beforehand. And she was over my shoulder and yelling at the screen and asking me questions. And at the end, she was in tears and couldn't believe what she had just saw. And this man should be in prison forever. And God bless his wife and their family, who is still suffering. The Watts family and Chris's family, her family as well, will suffer forever from this. And that's what happens with crime, with violence, with true crime, is that I've been making these shows for years. I try to treat them as gently as possible. It's not just the story. I'm not just going for ratings. We're not just The Bachelor and trying to get the deepest impact, but we know this is somebody's life, and we know this is someone's story, and we try to treat it as gently as we can, because when we leave and the cameras go off, it's going to live with them forever. The cops who worked on this show had to stop working as cops, worked on this case. The cops who worked on this case are still suffering from PTSD from when they found those babies.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that for a minute. It's just very difficult. It's a very difficult problem to solve. But again, I guess I'd go back to the same message we had last week when we were talking about addiction. You don't have to live this way. You don't. I grew up in a household where my father was physically abusive to my mother. And, at any point, if my mother had said we have to leave, it would have been difficult because my brother and I were kids, but it would have been a much better answer. And again, it sounds like I'm putting the pressure on women. I don't blame any woman who's in an abusive relationship. You didn't ask for it. You don't deserve it. But as hard as it is, it does come down to you in that scenario. And yes, men are abused as well, but you have to make the decision, not just for you, but for your children too, to just get out. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying for a moment that this woman made a mistake with her husband. She's dead. The children are dead. I'm just saying this is another opportunity for us to learn how not to be in that situation, if possible.
Well, it goes all the way back to the beginning of our conversation and this young lady from The Bachelor. Advocate for yourself.
Right.
Advocate for yourself.
Nobody's going to do that better than you ever. You're going to be the best advocate for you throughout your life.
Yeah. And again, she was incredibly brave, and it's hard. It hurts. But if you advocate for yourself and you stand up for what you believe in, good things will come.
It's remarkable television, and for those of you who love these true crime things, I highly recommend it. What's the appropriate plug for Tubi?
It's free.
You're the worst producer ever. No, I mean, as far as getting it, I mentioned it up front. This is an opportunity for you to tip it in and remind people how to get Tubi.
Yeah, no, it's a streaming service. You can get it on all your devices. It's a streaming service. It's like Netflix. Tubi is really, what I think is amazing is they've started upping their game on original content and documentary storytelling. So this show, it's a feature length documentary, which
please try again in a moment.
We'll pick that up and let you re-edit. This feature is a documentary that's feature length. There's no commercials. It's an hour and a half of storytelling, and Tubi's allowing.
Wow.
They're covering lots of cool topics. I mean, they did Jeffrey Dahmer in feature length, and another documentary that I was able to produce for Tubi that comes out in April is about the Titanic. And they're allowing filmmakers and storytellers to dive in and get deep with these stories. And if you want to watch Tubi and you want to watch their documentaries, that's why. Because the real documentary, there's a lot of stuff that airs on true crime channels that are cookie cutter. And I think the people at Streetcar Entertainment, who I worked for, they're great storytellers, and they allowed us to tell the story. And that's why I don't know what Tubi's plug line is, but they're producing quality documentaries, and as a documentary filmmaker, it's so appreciated.
Yeah, and documentaries as a genre have never been more popular. And I agree with you that the primetime 2020 Dateline models are just it's just a template. Put a horrible murder story in here. This is an actual effort to tell the story in full, and I salute you for it.
Thanks, man. I mean, I'm one part of a crazy, amazing team of people who just worked tirelessly to put this on the air. And they are when you're the producer, you're like the quarterback. They want to pat you on the back. But everyone, the editors, the writers, the researchers, the people who put up with me constantly complaining about something. And the show wouldn't be on the air if it wasn't for all the folks at Streetcar Entertainment.
So I guess the two things we've learned are advocate for yourself always, and never, ever, ever make fun of someone dealing with any form of mental illness. Is that the two lessons we had here?
That, and because of you, I'll never work for ABC. But yeah, those are the two lessons.
I sort of like I sort of feel like I'm a good friend if I saved you from doing another wife swap. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the two lessons are important, and be calm, understand that we're all going through something. That's it. It's a crazy time in our life, and someday it'll be over. But right now, everyone's hurting. Every single person you see is hurting.
Well, hugs to your great family, and thanks for doing this. It's David Wallach. Why don't you plug your social media so people can stay in touch with you?
No, I don't need it. I'm good. I don't want people bothering me. I'm terrified of the comments that are going to come to what you and I have discussed already. Like, it's going to be.
If you're purchasing a new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan or reverse mortgage, well, do what we do. Call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. My kids, my family, my friends, my listeners, my coworkers through the years. I mean, everybody I know, they come to me, they go, Team Hochberg, real deal? Yep. And they always come back and go, thanks for the setup, including some very skeptical people. It just gets it done, and so does Team Hochberg. Denise, age 70, lived in a $400,000 home with her husband until he suddenly passed away. Denise planned on selling the home and moving into an apartment before contacting Team Hochberg for a free reverse mortgage consultation. Team Hochberg's reverse mortgage expert explained Denise didn't have to sell the house that she and her late husband lived in for 40 years and could refinance it into a reverse mortgage loan. Look, reverse mortgages have all these myths that exist out there about them. And it may not be right for you, but you know how you find out? You contact Team Hochberg, because they will take care of you and give you the straight deal. And they'll tell you if it's right for you or not. So before calling, Denise was selling her home, moving into an apartment. After calling, she got a reverse mortgage, allowed her to afford and to stay in the home that she shared with her husband and family for 40 years. Team Hochberg has helped me and thousands of podcast listeners to this show refinance after the death of a loved one, for instance, just like they helped Denise. But they can't help if you don't call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. And don't forget to tune in to Home Sweet Home Chicago, hosted by David, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on AM 720 WGN. Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061. Okay, before we go, I want to thank my friend David Wallach. David Wallach has a son who has challenges. My brother, I've spoken about often with special needs. My daughter works with kids with autism every day as a BCBA and is helping shape that measure of care at her company and others. We're sensitive about the treatment of people with mental illnesses, and we all need to be, as we talked about in the interview. There's many groups that do great work in this area in helping people with challenges find help. David Wallach said, you got to know more about this one. And after taking a look at this organization, as my daughter has as well, we're both impressed. It's called havedreams.org. Have Dreams, with an S, havedreams.org. They maximize the lives of young adult folks who are on the spectrum and have all sorts of resources as well for family members, and take care of younger folks dealing with autism as well. HaveDreams.org. Please help if you can, and spread information on those people and the good work they're doing however you can. And also, you can see David Wallach's new venture, Suburban Nightmare, Chris Watts. It's on Tubi. I don't know if your TV's smart or not so smart, but if you have a smart TV, Tubi is probably already preloaded on there as an app. If not, you can download it onto your TV through any of your other devices, much like podcasting. Have your 7-year-old do it. And you can also watch it online at tubitv.com, TUBITV.com. Free streaming and really good programming at Tubi. My hat's off to them, or in this case, since I'm not wearing one, my headphones are off to them because they're doing great stuff, and they got some great content in the pipeline as well. And they were very smart to bring in my friend, Mr. Wallach, as I was to ask Ross Cochran to produce this podcast, as he does so well all the time. And thank you, buddy. Ross and his entire family have been dealing with COVID. And by that, I mean his immediate family, because we've been hiding out from him. But they're on the mend and feeling better every day. So get better, buddy. I love you. And thanks for, as always, being the executive producer of Live from My Office. Thank you for listening. Next time we get together, Nick DiGilio joins me to talk about his own podcast launch. How cool is that going to be? Thanks for listening again to Live from My Office.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Support the show by subscribing wherever you're listening and by telling your friends about it. Follow Steve on all social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And make sure you check out this episode's show notes for relevant information discussed during the conversations. You can also email the show directly at thecochranshow@gmail.com with any questions or comments. And that's the best place to tell us about your favorite nonprofit so we can make sure we mention them on the next episode. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event. And occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.